G'day guys, welcome back to Beers and Break-Evens, brought to you by Blue Wealth Property. We had the great Morts in here the other day having a bit of a deep dive was with us. We did a bit of SuperCoach, we spoke a bit of Blue Wealth Property. He did overs for us, didn't he, Timmy?
He did, mate. We spoke with Franklin Pele, and that'll be the last we speak of Franklin Pele. We spoke with Jacob Preston, and a little bit bullish about him. So, good man. Learn even more. So
they've got many seminars and educational things coming up at Blue Wealth Property. So if you want to have a look at those, they are in the description. There's a couple for Sydney, a couple for Queensland coming up. So we'll put all of those in the description. If you have any questions about Blue Wealth Property, reach out to myself or Timmy.
Yeah, we'll be getting out to one of them at one stage this season, at least one, to be fair.
Yep, very much so. Jesus, busy few weeks, bro. Fuck a duck.
Jesus Christ. Between these bloke regional tours going out to Whoop Whoop, Armidale last weekend had an absolute ball. 3 more to go.
3 more to go, and then I've got a minor event after that I also have to deal with. So,
what's that one, mate?
Yeah, just a sneaky little wedding. So it's a big few weeks. Wagga Wagga this Friday. We're going to be at the Riverina Hotel, 6 p.m. Armidale was fantastic. How good were the people?
Absolute legends, mate. Oh. Yeah. Die-hard Raiders fan out there, just chatted to him all night and couldn't have been happier.
I thought the Skull had turned his allegiances from the Dragons to the Raiders just quietly. He loved it.
What a man.
We also had shout out to the boys. I know that Nathan was one of them. He got his paws on our Beers and Break-Evens hat. The boys actually came up to us at the start of the night, talked a bit of SuperCoach, and I didn't twig. I completely forgot about it. Had the hat in the car. And then after about 14 blokes, he came up to me later and said, hey, I mentioned SuperCoach to you earlier. So I went out to the car park with him, gave him the hats. They absolutely loved it. So we will have more Beers and Break-Evens hats there this week. So first people to come up to us from the Wagga region, talk about SuperCoach, get your paws on some of these, because there's only one other way to get your hands on them. We'll talk about that in a minute, because we've got some exciting announcements.
We will, mate. Not the only thing the boys loved, was it?
Oh, tell me about it. Fuck it, duck. There was a bit going around. All right, let's have a look at our results from the weekend, mate. How did you go?
Funny one. No, not real well score-wise. 10.43, so sitting in 39,000th. Really happy with my side. And I won't go into it too deep at the moment, because I'll be doing a deep dive into early season sort of analysis very shortly. But I think I mentioned to you a few weeks ago on the show that I don't think I've started above sort of top 20,000 the first round or two since I was a wee lad. Round one last year, I was 80,000th after round one.
I thought that was overs too.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, so I'm definitely overs in 39k. It's a great start. After round two in 2020, when I finished second, I was coming 13,000th. So early season rank, not irrelevant to me. Of course, I'd want to have scored $1,200 and fired out of the $1,200 points and fired out of the blocks. But mate, really happy with my team. Really happy with the minutes of players, the roles of players, all barring Luke Garner, who played 50, and Franklin Pele, who, despite their lack of middles, played, 8 minutes or so and seemingly got dragged, so couldn't understand that one. So outside of those two, really happy with my side. Yeah,
man, as you said, rank right now, it isn't irrelevant, but kind of is. Kind of don't care. Yeah. I'm sitting 25k, slightly ahead of you, 1,080, but as we said a few times, doesn't mean anything as it stands.
Put it this way, I'd prefer be 39k and have two sort of semi-question marks over my side than be sitting in 2k and have 4 or 5 things that I've gone, or his minutes weren't quite here, or this didn't happen, or this didn't happen. So it's not all doom and gloom, mate.
And if you do feel bad about your rank, go and have a look at the team that won it overall this week, and you'll feel fucking sensational, minus $1,000.
Exactly right, mate. It had 5 non-playing reserves in their team. So I think this probably ties into my long-term strategy and playing the long game, not the short game, and I think it's evidence of that. And I like to think that the Beers and Break-Evens Unlimited group have hopefully been half listening, and that also ties into the long game theory.
Yeah, and speaking of the Beers and Break-Evens group, I had a look and thought, there's more than 10,000 people in there. I wonder how many of the top 100 we've got. We've only got 7 people from the top 100 that are in our group. And I looked at it and went, oh, fuck. But then I thought, you know what? That's exactly where we should be.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm stoked with that.
Isn't it funny? You sort of sit there, it almost sounds like I'm making excuses for the Beers and Break-Evens faithful, but honestly, I was almost happy with it. It's going, all right, all that pre-season advice of you need a strong 25-man squad, you can easily start the season and stack your top 17 and have these non-playing reserves and start and go well early on, but you're going to fall off the perch very quickly. So hopefully that's the reason behind it, mate.
Yeah, and if we get to round 21 and we've still got 7 of the top 100 in there, we've got to ask some, have a deep look in the mirror, I think, and ask some questions. Yeah, can it. Now, on the Beers and Break-Evens group, if you haven't joined it already, there is the code up here, there, somewhere. It's here somewhere. You'll be able to see it. The code is 353745, so make sure you join. And shout out to Levi. He managed to top our group this week, 1,312. Should we announce these prizes, weekly prizes, or what?
Yeah. So I've been waiting for this one for a while.
This is unreal. I'm very, very excited about this. So, weekly prizes. If you top the group, you will receive a Beers and Break-Evens hat. It's the only possible way to get one of these is either to top the week or be really drunk in Wagga this weekend. So I'll let you make it. I don't know which one's easier.
Yeah, I can do the latter, mate. They're exclusive, hard to get your hands on. I've tried to get one off you and you've said, mate, win the group or nothing.
Nothing, yeah. I'll back it. So you'll be getting a hat and a little special for you guys. We've got about 30 odd of these made up. So Beers and Break-Evens brought to you by Steeden, the retro footy. Nothing better than a retro footy, right, Timmy?
Mate, I'd love to take some credit for this and share it, but this is some of your best work, mate, between the hats and the footies. I've G'd up for a while that if you're not winning the 5.5K, that's about as good as it gets to me. A retro Steeden footy with the Beers and Break-Evens logo, they're unreal. And
this is the only way you will get this is by winning a week or by winning overall. So pretty special stuff there. So Levi, who coaches the Reed Marnie Handsome, I think that's how you pronounce it. He has won it this week. So, Levi, mate, if you can please send us an email, beersandbreakevens@gmail.com. Every single winner this week, you will need to, every single winner throughout the season, you'll have to send us an email on there with a screenshot of your team, proof that it is your side, and then I will get it all organised and get your prizes mailed out to you. But onus is on you guys. You need to email us. We've got no way of really chasing you guys up unless you email us. So email address is down here, I hope. And you guys make sure you send us an email so we can get it sorted. And email us this week. We don't really want to be chasing up round 1 prizes in round 8, 9, 10. So get on top of it. It's an unreal prize. Make sure you email us this week, Levi, and congratulations, mate. Now, speaking of prizes, the footballs, the hats, they're unreal. Blue Wealth Property, obviously our major sponsor. Tony came in here the other day. He's putting up $5,000. Well, $5,500 if you're an NRL club member for the overall winner of Beers and Break-Evens, our group. And, mate, we've got we were sitting having breakfast on Saturday in Armidale. And we got up, we went to leave, and we looked at where the car was parked, and it was out the front of a trophy shop. We sort of looked at each other and went, this could be perfect for us.
A trophy shop side by side with a sports shop in the country. I was just sitting there going, I just eaten a B&E roll, had a coffee. It couldn't have got any better.
It was unreal. We went in there. Shop was great. It had all retro rugby league stuff. It was unreal. We lost plenty of time in there.
Had the Newcastle Knights Henny Penny retro jersey. I was like, oh, what more could a store?
One of the all-time greats.
Yeah.
And mate, it also had some unbelievable Queensland memorabilia, which I obviously couldn't get into myself, but fuck, those old Maroons jerseys are sick.
Yeah.
They were mad.
No comment. I can't say.
No comment. Yeah, fair. But anyway, there was a big wall of trophies, and we were having a look at them, and we essentially said to the old bloke, we want the dribbliest fucking thing you can get us. We want the most ridiculous trophy we can possibly get. He goes, what do you do? And we explained to him what fantasy football was. I don't think he knew or cared, which was completely fair on both fronts. No. And we said, look, Tim's from the great town of Cooma. His team is the Cooma Stallions, and it always has been. And, mate, I think we found the perfect trophy, didn't we?
Just quietly. Used to be the Wallagoot Wingnuts way back when. So I think Stallions been about 5 years. Mate, the winner of the Beers and Break-Evens group, not only are they playing for 5.5K, hats, footies, all sorts of things, they'll also be given the inaugural Stallion. How bloody good is that?
The Cooma Stallion. Have a look at it. How good is that? So we thought there was a couple of trophies there that we were looking at, but we just thought something a little bit unique for you guys, the Cooma Stallion. And next year we'll get a new one. So this will be the only one like this. And next year there'll be a new one. I'm super stoked with that, mate.
A noble steed indeed as well, mate. So, yeah, if you didn't want to... I think the overall prize has gone to about 10K with the addition of the Stallion. So.
I think well and truly.
Yeah.
I'd love to know what the market value of the Stall is. Now, we also decided that me and Timmy, we obviously love each other dearly, as you can see on social media every week, but we are very competitive with each other. So we decided, you know what, we need a trophy as well. And I know what you're all going to think. Your trophy's better than ours. Correct. Our trophy is better. It's fucking unreal, our trophy. Once again, we said to him, mate, we want the most exorbitant thing you can possibly find us in your trophy store that's over the top. And, mate, I think the trophy we found, it's got a lot of character, doesn't it?
It does. It's been through the ringer. I'd love to know the stories behind the Hallowed Cup.
So here we are. Me and Timmy will be playing for the Beers and Break-Evens Championship this year. We've got it engraved there. I've got my one from last year. Did you remember that I won last year? Just a draft guy taking on one of the classic experts, one of the big dogs. You even got your head on your fucking SuperCoach team. And here's little Garino coming in, just having a red hot crack, punching so far above his weight, it's not even funny, and gets it done. How good. Mate, Walt Disney, reach out. Mate, make a movie. I'm ready.
Unfortunately, Guru, results are results. And look, I'm back in my shell a little bit after the Dolphins towed the Roosters last week. So I don't know how much shade I can throw this week.
And I was sitting there watching Thursday night footy with the trophy next to me going, how good's this? I'm going to have this thing sitting in front of me all year. This is going to be great. Then Harry Grant scored his try in Golden Point. And I went, that motherfucker Tim, I'm going to have to hand this over in week one. This sucks. And then thankfully, Teddy didn't get off the bus. So I get to keep it for week one. What we're going to do is I'll keep it in front of me this week, and then whoever tops the round, they get to swap and change it each week. So if you manage to beat me this week, good luck. You can then have it on your side, mate. So between the Stallion, the big trophy, hats, Steedham footballs, where else would you rather be?
There's a bit going on.
Yeah. If only we had two better looking blokes, it'd just be fucking unreal.
It'd be the perfect podcast.
Tell me about it. Anyway, can't win them all, but it would be good to win a few more of them. So, yeah.
It would be good to not be 30,000 overall. But here we are.
Here we are. So, yeah, Levi, if you're watching, which I assume you are, and I hope you are, I mean, you won our group, so you must be listening to our advice. Reach out, mate, beersandbreakevens@gmail.com. All right. Round one in the books, done and dusted. We had round two team list drop, and as per with round two, you don't see a stack of changes. There are a couple of minor things which we'll touch on, but we probably won't be as big a topic. And then we're going to go through a stats deep dive from the great Timmy Williams, T. Williams, not Tony Williams. Similar footballers, but different guy, right?
Similar size frames.
T-Rex.
Yeah.
It might stick, actually. I don't mind that. And then we're also just going to talk about... I've got a heap of questions from you guys that were sent in this week, and we'll go through a lot of them, but I reckon 70% of them are answered in the same way when it comes to round one. So we'll have a little talk about that as well, because I think for a number of people, there are panic stations out here. Someone in this room fell into a bit of panic stations as well. So we'll get to that very, very soon. But... Thursday, we got the Panthers taking on the South Sydney Rabbitohs from Penrith at 8 p.m. For the Penny Panthers, Eisenhuth, he comes onto the bench. Had a really good game in reserve grade last week. Scotty Sorensen out. That's actually going to hurt Penrith a little bit. I think they're really going to miss Scotty Sorensen coming off the pine.
Yeah, mate. He's been so effective for them for a couple of seasons now. Supercoach-wise, I mean, first and foremost, Eisenhuth on the bench. I mean, it's all eyes on Luke Garner, isn't it, at the moment? It certainly is from my side. Now, Hosking named 18th man in Cup at the moment. Good news, we saw Jamin Salmon come on and play 30-odd minutes to take away from Luke Garner and his 50. Garner, someone on the chopping block for me this week. I don't know. I really do want to give him another week, but even if I do decide to give him another week, he's a hard playing 17s off 50 minutes last week, so... I mean, Eisenhuth coming on as a middle. Sorensen is injected into the game as a middle, but can spend time on the edge. So I feel slightly better about that, especially if there is an injury out wide and Jamin Salmon has to... I mean, he's so versatile. That's why he's in the team. If there was to be an injury or a HA or whatever and he slid into the back line, it'd mean 80 minutes for Luke Garner. Yeah.
Just on a name you mentioned there, Zach Hosking. He's obviously been named in jersey 18 here. He wasn't named in reserve grade last week. This week he has been on the left edge. So it's a big spot to watch. And they play on Thursday as well before first grade. So it's interesting to see.
At least we'll know there's no late Hosking coming in. That's handy.
But puts pressure on Garner.
Yeah.
Because for me, I think they're putting Zach Hosking there to show him what he can do.
Yeah.
To make a decision there. So an interesting little watch there. It should also be noted with the Panthers reserve grade side, they've moved Maverick Guy to the front row from the back row, so they're giving Zach Hosking every opportunity to play on that edge to show what he can do.
You do more analysis of New South Wales Cup team list than the actual NRL team.
Timmy, I've been telling you for years, my friend, this is what it takes, my friend. This is what it takes to make people think you're at the top. All right, let's have a look at the South Sydney Rabbitohs side. Latrell Mitchell has been named, which is great for all you Latrell owners. Saluka Fafita in the front row. I love this for Moali. I don't think Saluka Fafita's got huge minutes in him. I really like the makeup of this side for David Moali. And if you, and we'll talk about it soon, but if you had Franklin Pele and you didn't have Moali, this is probably the only trade I could understand people making this week.
Yeah. There's not a lot that really stand out. Now, important to note, Moali did start last week, so every chance he starts again this week. But as you said, Saluka Fafita, not exactly, or we don't think he's a big minute player. He hasn't been in the past early on in his career. So I think good minutes for Moali. It helps the case of Shaq Mitchell as well, who played good game time yesterday. The one thing I'll say about Bunny's forwards, and I don't want to jump too far into any questions that might crop up later on, but just be a little bit cautious because Totola lasted 1 minute last round. Jai Arrow lasted 22 minutes. Arrow started the game off the bench with Cheekham on the edge because they were already anticipating for Arrow to play as a middle because they were so light on, with Sele out, with Havili out. So minutes were skewed. So that's why I'm reluctant to go jumping on Moali or Shaq too early because what are their true minutes? I don't think we really know at this stage.
Yeah, I agree.
But at the same time, you're right. I think a Pele to Moali trade, I understand that, trying to get ahead of the pack for next week.
Yeah, that's the only one I can really understand. As you said, always looking at New South Wales Cup stats. I thought it was, and team list, I thought it was interesting. Tane Milne, he's obviously available this week. He's on the extended bench. I think filled me with a little bit of confidence when it comes to Isaac Thompson. Tane Milne's actually playing centre in New South Wales Cup this week. So you would think that if he was potentially going to come back in on the wing like he was last year, I'd play him out there.
As long as he plays centre.
Yeah, well, I mean, with the information we have so far, I
was hoping you were going to say he'd been named in the back row or something.
That's what I was hoping for. But not the perfect scenario, but not the worst either. In saying that, I think it's Richie Kennar that's on his outside who played right centre for a lot of last year, so it could quite easily change. Yeah, we could.
We'll get to more of a deep dive on Thompson later on, but a few Greg Marju vibes. He's got SuperCoach superstar in him, like 300k cash, good scoring, or he could be out of the team next week. So I'm just perform for me, mate. And this Penrith matchup this week, without all those bunnies middles, terrifies me. But there's something good in Thompson as a SuperCoach player, so we'll see.
And mate, he did a special for you on the weekend. That was our Blue Wealth player bet. I think he got 39. I had who did I have? I had Will Warbrick, and you had Isaac Thompson, I think, from memory.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Anyway, you won. You definitely won. So
I was due a win.
Yeah, fucking tell me about it. Yeah, I was happy for you. Little bit of charity there. It was nice.
Happy
all right, let's move to the Friday night games. The Parramatta Eels taking on the Cronulla Sharks from CommBank Stadium. To me, I love games in round 2 with two teams that lost in round 1. These are always the best.
Especially high-quality teams.
Yep.
Because not only are they going to be fired up and feeling a bit of pressure after the round 1 losses, but should be of high quality. I mean, we saw the Parramatta game. Parramatta were disappointing last week, but, very tough opposition in Melbourne. The Sharkies, they had glimpses as well. There's so much class about these teams. This should be a belter.
Yeah, and as you said, you love games where true competition heavyweights lose week 1, take each other on week 2. Parramatta Sharks, Newcastle Tigers. We've got a few of them this week, don't we?
We do. Yeah. Good round of footy incoming.
I thought I'd get more out of you for that.
I'm just here to talk SuperCoach.
That's fine. Okay. Anywho,
I'll save the footy talk for
the one-man show continues. Parramatta Sharks, CommBank. Parramatta, Sean Russell, he comes in. Bailey Simonson is on the extended, though. I've had a few messages about Sean Russell. I mean, if you don't have him already, wait 2 weeks regardless. But I think he could lose his spot very quickly, realistically.
Yeah, 366k there. Like they've shown in the past, I know Russell had an injury last season and he started the season well, but that they like Bailey Simonson. They want him out there. He's done a job. He's played in a grand final for them. So I think, particularly with Parramatta's tough draw, just wait.
For the Sharkies, nothing that really has a huge impact on us. Obviously, Wade Graham, he leaves the side, which it does give us a bit of insurance on the great Teague Wilton, which is fantastic. Your boy Williams drops out and Connor Tracy and Royce Hunt come in. Anything else touch on the Sharkies, mate?
Not really, but it's great news for Teague Wilton. We know that, like last week, it looked as though he would be that 80-minute player anyway, but the 4-forward bench was a concern, namely with Wade Gray in there, who, you know, as we said, we expect him to be injected in the middle, but there was every chance that he spent a bit of time on the edge for Teague last week. He didn't. He's now barred for 3 weeks, so...
I think it's 4 now.
4, right.
He challenged it and missed out.
Really?
Yeah, which I haven't had this confirmed, but I've been told that he challenged it because if he got it downgraded, there was a chance he might make it to 300 games. But because he hasn't, he might not now this year, which is devastating. Yeah. I haven't done the numbers myself. I've just been told that, so do your own research. But it does sort of make sense, I guess.
Yeah, and
in that perspective.
I mean, from a purely Supercoach look and not Wade Graham's glittering career, great news for Teague Wilton.
Yeah. I will just say on Teague Wilton, though, I think it is... unfortunately, from a Supercoach point of view, I'm glad that it has played out this way because, to be honest with you, I didn't think defensively that edge was... I thought it was pretty bang average, to be honest with you.
Connor Tracy comes in as the utility.
Yeah.
3-forward bench. Royce Hunt coming back from injury, so great news for Teague.
Great news, and yeah, I think that him and Siffa have a little bit to sort out over the next few weeks, but they've got every opportunity now.
Wade Graham, 277 games, so... I mean, look, chances of him going through the whole season anyway without missing another game or two, but it's a bit disappointing if he does fall 1 short anyway.
Yeah.
Sharkies might make the grand final.
Fingers crossed. I think they're every chance to. Okay, Broncos, Cowboys, 8 p.m, Suncorp, big brother versus little brother. I'll let you fight it out between yourselves to work out who's who. Broncos, Reece Walsh comes in, Cobbo's on the wing for the Cows, nothing notable. Anything you want to touch on with this game, or do we?
Yeah, I mean, the Cows line up every week recently, you know, back in last year, early this season, it's just that 1-17, isn't it? So nothing touching there. Broncos, keen to get a look at Reece Walsh. Particularly keen to get a look at Reece Walsh because Brisbane turned up last week and, you know, maybe we're seeing that top 4 side of last year rather than the bedshit end of season Broncos side. So Reece Walsh is a really interesting one.
Very interesting. Yeah. We've both always been big fans of Reece Walsh, so yeah, one to keep an eye on. All right, Super Saturday. I got the Roosters taking on the Warriors, 3 p.m. from Allianz for the Chooks. Joe Manu returns, which is great to see. Mate, this Matt Lodge injury, it's going to really hurt the Chooks, isn't it?
Matt Lodge injury, Victor Radley named, but 6-day turnaround, pretty nasty looking concussion there, bit of a history. You'd think he'd have to be in a fair bit of doubt, so really light on for middles, the Roosters. I'm big watch on a few blokes there, a few potential cheapies and whatnot, because they're just light. Them and the Bunnies for middles at the moment, just through injuries. So could be some Supercoach opportunities. Terrell May is one that's been floated about a little bit. He only got a handful of minutes, but scored really well on the weekend. Again, possibly minutes were inflated, but they've got to go around somewhere. So, and
as you said, they obviously lose Lodge, potentially losing Radley. I would argue those two probably the 2 best forwards with hands in their team as well. So it's probably their 2 most aggressive guys, along with their best sort of ball-playing forwards. Yeah, it's going to really sting them.
And that's it. So, and when we're talking, Franklin Pele is such a key trade-out target for everyone this week. That's fine. I just don't really know who to go to. And I already said Moali, but you look at potential replacements in Shaq Mitchell, potentially Terrell May, a lot of blokes I just want to have a look at. So he'll be another one of them. Mate,
I'll tell you what gave me a lot of pleasure under New Zealand, just riding unchanged. Stability. This is what we want. This is unreal. Now, there are a lot of Warriors that we'll talk about a little bit later, so we'll leave them for now. But, great to see some stability over there with the New Zealanders, albeit 2 rounds, but quite often you get to round 2 and it's changes all over the place for the Warriors. So good to see. Beautiful. With the depth they've got. I will just mention, and we spoke about it pre-show for people, just to keep in consideration, Jazz Tavanga, named in New South Wales Cup this week, playing 13.
Are we talking about it now or are we talking about it later?
We'll save for later. I just wanted to point that out to people and make sure I didn't forget about it. All right, 5:30 p.m. Wow. The Dolphins taking on the Raiders. We almost had a little Biff pre-show here about this game. I'm taking the Dolphins. Timmy's taking the Raiders. 5:30 p.m. KO Stadium. I think it's fair to say we both underestimated the Dolphins. I think it's fair to say that I think there is going to be a bit of an up period for the first few weeks, and that's what worries me about this game. Spoke about it pre-show. When do you think we might see a little bit of a drop-off? Because they can't stay sky high forever. That's the reality of it. People might get upset by that, but it's reality. They're going to eventually level out a little bit, whether it's injuries, whether it's just the week-to-week grind. When do you sort of see it playing out?
Yeah, it's Wednesday morning. We're 2.5 days into the week, and I'm up to my third Dolphins apology doing the podcast. So I've got the halfback.
He's making an appearance at SeaWorld this afternoon too.
Got the halfback punting podcast tomorrow. I've got some big apologies to make on that one as well, that my punting reflected. Look, they're outstanding, the Dolphins on the weekend, and full credit to them and the whole organisation for getting up for that game. I still obviously have question marks around the squad. They exceed expectations by a mile. I think the hype will wear off. You cannot play to that intensity each and every week, and I'm not convinced by the roster. That being said, as you said, first game at Redcliffe this week. Them boys are going to be riding so high after that one. Unfortunately, my old Raiders get them this week. I do think there's probably a bit of complacency in the Roosters outfit, which the Raiders, having seen what the Dolphins are capable of, won't have that complacency anymore, which is good because we hopefully won't be ambushed like they were. So I think the Dolphins will again be up for this one. I'm tipping the Raiders in it, but who knows? If the Dolphins can replicate what they did last week at Redcliffe, they're every chance in this. So I think the drop-off comes. I think we might be another 2 or 3 weeks away from seeing it, though.
Yeah, and I mean, as impressive as they were the other day, nothing has changed with their squad. If you have 2 to 3 injuries, like if something was to happen to the Dolphins this week that happened to the Roosters last week, they find themselves in deep shit all of a sudden, I think.
Yeah, a bit light on if they lose future immortal Felice Kafusi.
How good was Felice? Oh. Good God, absolute monster. The only change for the Dolphins, Ray Stone is out. Mason Teague comes in. Mason Teague is from the Penrith Panthers system last year. They would have been filthy to lose him. If I had to give you a player com, I would say he reminds me a lot of Tyrone Peach in the early days when he was sort of playing lock. He's got a bit of upside to him, but he gets through a lot more work than Peach.
Versatile, is he?
Very versatile, yeah. Very talented kid. I think it was in their second trial, Isaiah Katoa put him in for a try under the sticks. Watch that little combination between the two Penrith boys. They've been playing together for a few years, but I just think with Mason too, very talented guy. He's, bottom price, whatever. I think it's a matter of time till Ray Stone comes into this side. I don't think he gets huge minutes either. But I think he'll be a guy that in the future we'll be talking more and more about. For the Raiders, Jordan Rapana of fucking WWE fame out of this game. In comes Hopawate. Raiders, mate, last week going up there to North Queensland isn't probably a harder road trip in round one for anyone, let alone Canberra Raiders. Do you think it does take a little bit out of them heading into this week? What are your thoughts?
I'm sure it'll take a little bit out of them. At the same time, they've started the season with a loss. They'll be fired up for this. It's round 2. I don't think bodies are too sort of battered and bruised at this point of the season. So if they can't get up for this after a loss, I think you've got to ask a few questions. So they'll be all right.
Storm and Dogs, 7:35 from Amy Park for the Melbourne Storm. Obviously, the big news, Cam Munster is out. Tyrone Wishart comes in. The other one, mate, that I don't think he's sort of hit his best footy yet, but he's another one that comes on the bench is Aaron Penne, who I think could make a real difference for them. Just another big body. They've still got... And I actually, when we were talking about Melbourne on the other day, I completely forgot about Aaron Penne. He could be the sort of guy that they need coming off the bench.
Yeah, I sort of had his moments in, over at he was at the Warriors for a few seasons. Good moments in reserve grade. So interesting to see, as I said, light on for middles. And interesting to note, with this side, just around Katoa and Loiero, who we'll get to a bit more later, still no Tarek Sims, Tui Kamikamitha. What's he? Is he sort of around 4 or 5 return?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. Eisenhuth is the other one too. Who's a club captain.
Eisenhuth as well. So there's blokes to come back. So when we say, and we'll get to it soon, but don't panic, be patient, and we really want another look at a lot of players. Just want to see the minutes, how that impacts the back rows, how that impacts Josh King and a few others. So, Wishart into the side. That is good news for Harry Grant, as there's every chance that he came on and gives Grant a bit of a spell, especially if they do get any sort of decent leads during the season. They've obviously got Bronson Garlick there, who was a hooker earlier on, but I think he's sort of...
he can play both.
He can play both.
I personally think he's a better back rower than what he is 9.
And that's what he's evolving into, and that's why he was picked last week. It was panic stations last week when he was named on the bench with Wishart. You're like, I guess he got 2 number 9s on the bench.
Yeah.
Happy days. Anyway, Harry played his 84, and the match situation sort of forced that. But look, with Wishart in the team, I think it's only good news for Harry Grant and his minutes.
Yep, for sure. The Canterbury Bulldogs, mate, 1-17, no changes. Obviously a pretty disappointing game last weekend for them. I guess the one thing to touch on is jersey 20. Oluwapu. Very nice. Should also be noted in reserve, like he played New South Wales Cup last week. Did really well. His stats were great for SuperCoach. I think we said he had 8 or 9 tackle breaks or something. Very impressive. Josh Reynolds actually got injured just after half-time. So Carl took it. And I didn't actually realise this when I watched the highlights of it, but I went and had a look at the stats. Josh went off after 41 minutes. Blacktown led like 16-0. And then Canterbury won the last 50 minutes, 36-0 or something. So, yeah, pretty impressive stuff. And because Josh Reynolds is out, Carl's going to be playing halfback in reserve grade this week. So, bit of pressure could be building suddenly there.
Down 16-0. Young Carl loves a bit of adversity, doesn't he? Loves firing up for that. So, it's, mate, so much pressure. And as I said, he was strong in reserve grade last week. I think you've mentioned a few times too, you've gone back and you know, watched all the highlights, as you tend to do, mate. You put the hard yards in, I'll give you that. And, you know, the hype train is in force. He was good without being a superstar. But the fact that the step up to playing against men, and he was very comfortable in that grade. So a lot of pressure on Flano, and poor old Flano going down to Melbourne now this week. They've started poorly, just seeing Carl go well in reserve grade. Big weekend for the doggies, number 7s. I
had someone that messaged me and said, oh, yeah, but he conceded a try on his edge. And I went, oh, yeah, fair share. So I went and had a look at it. There was 2 men sort of coming at his hole, and he had to pick which one he went for. Granted, he picked the wrong one. But, bro, you should have seen the fucking defensive technique he put on the wrong man, to be fair. But, mate, his technique is perfect. It was the best missed tackle I've ever seen. It was incredible. So, very, very exciting. I think there's a chance we genuinely do see him over the next few weeks. I don't know if he solves their problems, to be honest with you. But he's probably got a little bit more upside than Flano.
Is he... I'll have a look.
He's 5'8".
Straight 5'8".
But if he comes in over the next few weeks, potentially, he could get halfback in round 6.
True. Good point.
Or after that.
And even like if he comes in, say, round 3, 4, 5, whatever, just a cheeky little Katoa down to him, make a bit of bang, happy days.
If he was to come in, do you think Canterbury would just throw him the 7, or do you think they'd actually swap Burton into the 7? Do you think? Because as stupid as it sounds, that's what SuperCoach will decided on what jersey he wears when he comes in.
I think you'd have to give Burton the 7, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, like Carl, on everything we've heard and the few highlights we've seen, is that he is a number 6. He's a big, strong ball runner. There's a lot of chat that, he can play 13 as well. To bring in an 18-year-old at a club that's had all this hype of the Dogs and their big signings and whatnot, next to Matty Burton, and say, Carl, you run the show. From what I gather, it's not his game. Now, we both agree that we don't think that's Matty Burton's game either. However, I do think Matty Burton would be the 7, but we'll see. And as you said, so vital, because that is what those over at SuperCoach HQ will probably use to determine it.
Yeah. So Cam Serrato, if you're watching, which I know you are, give him the 7. Yeah. Just let him wear number 7. Do us a favour.
Loves it.
All right, let's move to the Sunday Arvo games coming to you from Leichhardt Oval. The first one, 4 p.m, Tigers versus the Newcastle Knights. You're getting out to this one, aren't you?
I am. I can't wait for it. I was watching that Sunday afternoon at Leichhardt last week and said, why am I not at this oval? So I'll be there. I can't wait.
That'll be unreal. Nothing overly relevant when it comes to the Tigers. I think it is just worth noting, once again, no Johnny Bateman. We're not quite sure what's going on here. I guess it's just a wait-and-see game, isn't it?
Yeah. Said mixed signals from the club around what's actually happening with Johnny Bateman, so I don't really know, but...
Okay, the Newcastle Knights. Adam Elliott, spoke to him last night. He reckons he could be out for up to a month or so that'll be interesting. I think that he probably was just keen as fuck to get out there for Newcastle and maybe took a bit of a punt round 1.
Yeah, it was an interesting one because... Like, he's obviously going to start for that club long term and would have round 1 if he was fully fit. And then he plays off the bench. and re-injures himself, it's just like, you don't want to throw stones because, like, why would the club push him in round one? I know ads, and he would have been eager as hell to get out there, but at the same time, he would have been completely upfront with, this is where the injury's at, this is how it feels. So while he would have been keen to get there would have been enough staff there to say, if you're no good, you're no good. So, look, it might have been a new part of the groin. Who bloody knows? I'm not a physio, I'm not a doctor, but it's such a shame for him, mate.
He's a guy that we're obviously both very high on. I drafted him very early. I think it was pretty evident in that game that he was pretty fucked pretty early. It just wasn't the Adam Elliott that we know. So, yeah, hopefully we see him back sooner rather than later. And Jersey 21, we said it last week, you'd see him soon, Greggy Marciu. I'm not saying he's going to play this week, but I'm very confident in saying if you don't see him this week, you'll see him next week.
Yeah, and if he's fit and good to go, you think there's every chance he plays
straight
this
in,
week.
I think,
so,
yeah.
Really interesting SuperCoach watch.
The Dragons versus the Titans, 6:15 from Cogra. For the Dragons, look, it is the first time we've seen this side. Hook, weirdly, has thrown in a couple of curly ones. Who would have seen this coming? No Jack DeBellin. He's still recovering from injury. I think you'll see him next week or the week after. Ben Murdoch-Masila on the left edge. Jack Bird in the 13. Shout out to Toby Couchman, who's making his NRL debut coming off the bench. Played 2 games of New South Wales Cup last year. Has gone through the ranks incredibly quickly. A very, very talented young guy.
What is he?
Second row. Tough. Very tough kid.
Yeah.
He's actually got a twin brother. I forget his first name, but there's 2 Couchmans that are coming through the system at the moment. So one to keep an eye on there, Toby Couchman.
The Dragons.
Love it. Yeah. They've had a fair few, haven't they?
The Morris boys, the Phoenix at the moment.
Yeah. It's good stuff. Mate, a few messages about Ben Murdoch-Masila this week. Scored a try in that trial as a big minute back rower, and I think he scored 50. Oh, sorry, he didn't score a try. He had a try assist, which included a line break. So I don't know. I'm not convinced on Ben Murdoch-Masila, and I think there's every chance that when Jack DeBellin comes back, he jumps into 13 and Bird goes back to that edge as well. So just a bit of risk for me.
Were you surprised to see Bird at 13?
Yes, until I realised Jack DeBellin wasn't there.
Yeah, just to watch on Murdoch-Masila. Look, we know what he's capable of. He's a good footballer, Murdoch-Masila. It's just about winning that role. So they've just got Jaden Sewer on one edge. He could be a perfect, like, if he kills it this week, ideally you want to give him 2 weeks, see what happens when DeBellin's back. But in fact, I was going to say Pele to Murdoch-Masila. Let's say we get to next week and Murdoch-Masila looks all right. Pele doesn't get minutes again. We can, because he's 216k Pele, he's not going to drop cash, but he'll drop about $3,000 if he does the same as what he did last weekend. Yep. So if you want to give it the extra week to see Murdoch-Masila and see how minutes and whatnot go around in the front row forward cheapy area, we can wait till round 4 and do it then. So certainly one to keep an eye on. Just don't go early.
I just worry, definitely don't go early. And I just have a look at their side, front rowers, Francis Molo, Blake Laurie, like 2 guys that I think are starting front rowers in the NRL as well. So I just think when Jack DeBellin comes back in, I think there's every chance that they move Jack Bird to that edge and then you're left with, Ben Murdoch-Masila coming off the pine. The other one I want to touch on, mate, we said that he'd be in the spine somewhere, and Moses Mbai, State of Origin centre, named it hooker. It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah. Little big love affair with Moses Mbai over that club, isn't there? In fact, the whole of the NRL.
Yeah. And I get it. Like, he's a talented, good player, but, geez, I think you got to score some points, don't you?
He's a talented 14.
He's the perfect 14.
Yeah, just probably the most versatile player in the competition that can go and do a very solid job in every position. It's even funny, mate, where you were pretty critical of him and being in the starting side in the trials and playing at half, he actually looked really good. But that's at half, and now he's playing 9. I don't know. Poor old Jacob Little going, what's my got to do?
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? There's every chance that Hook might play him by for the first 20, and then you have Jacob Little. So see how it plays out, but I just thought it was interesting. And also, not overly SuperCoach relevant, realistically, but Talatau Amone, obviously named in Jersey 2021. Good chance he will play. Mate, Jersey 22 surprised me a little bit. Aaron Woods, not on the side. I thought he was pretty average during the trials, but I just thought that Hook would have picked him there for sure.
Yeah, focusing on the radio commitments, but Woodsy. Surprising there. You look at the pack, and it's a pretty uninspiring forward pack, but there's depth. I thought Josh Kerr was terrific in the All-Stars game, and I thought he'd sneak on at least onto the bench.
He always is, to be fair.
Yeah, so, like, so no superstars in the pack, but, they've got depth for days. So if there's injuries, blokes aren't performing, there's always going to be pressure on blokes, so that's something for them, isn't it?
Mate, I can't take my eyes off the stallion.
How good is it?
How good is it? Looks fucking unreal.
Yeah, I've been doing me bit, mate.
Oh, I love that. She's a lucky girl. All right, mate, let's get into your deep dive. You got a couple of players you want to touch on, mate, their stats and whatnot. What do you got for us?
I got 2 deep dives. Which one do you want me to start with?
Oh, no, actually, sorry. We'll start with the trading. We'll stick
Trading
to the
deep
game
dive.
plan. Yeah, let's go.
So
I guess I would just start this by saying, as I said at the top, 70% of your questions about specific players, Tim's about to give both of our viewpoints on this, regardless of who the player is, essentially.
Yeah. Don't panic.
Yeah.
Is the rule this week, the lesson. So I've seen a lot of really good super coaches out there that are sitting on their hands and not trading this week. And, I see every other man and his dog sitting there panicking going. The train of thought is that because we get a free look at players before price rises, that round 2 should be this big trading round. Now, in theory, it should be because we get a look at minutes of players, roles of players, and we get this better idea. But that doesn't mean that you haven't got your starting team wrong. I'm looking at my team now, and as I said, I've got Garner, who I have question marks over, Pele, who I've got question marks over. Aside from them, I'm very happy with everything that my side has done. And let's take Egan Butcher as an example, who scored poorly, and we'll get to him in more detail later on. But there's a fire sale of him. I look at him and go, well, he looked set to play 80 minutes. So that was a tick. There were a few question marks whether he played left or right edge. He got that left edge spot outside Luke Keary, which is a great place to be for a back rower. So despite the poor score, I'm like, no concern. He'll be fine. So people moving to a few of these CT dub cheapies who scored really well, and they're selling off ones who didn't. There are a lot of people going, say, Khan Pereira to Asako, that sort of trade. I'm like, Khan Pereira's bottom dollar. He's on good Titans left edge. Kieran Foran's been named, so he'll have his moments, he'll score his tries. Look, nothing's changed for me. The big scores from certain CT dubs will roll out of their 3-round average after one price change. So let's say Asako comes out and scores 15 this week. It could happen. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, geez, might have been off the money there. So essentially the lesson is just don't rush. If you're making a trade this week, do it for the right reasons. Don't do it because you feel the need that you have to make 2 trades this week. I don't know if we'll get to it later. I don't know if you're trading. I'm looking at probably maybe 1 trade max at this stage. There's going to be teams out there who got 3, 4, 5 things wrong and they go, I stuffed up, I need to make my 2 trades. There might be some teams going, I completely stuffed up, I need to boost. That is fine. Every team is different. But just essentially, it's a 1 week. There's anomalies. So I'm more than happy to sit on my hands this week, have a bit of look at things.
And mate, as you said, a guy like Asako, his round 1 score will roll out of his average, that real high one, as will the low ones. Don't panic. I think there's 3 guys that sum up this weekend and how stupid some Supercoach players are in panic. First one is Cam Murray. If I said to you 10 days ago, hey, South Sydney are going to lose 2 middles in the opening 20 minutes and Cam Murray's going to score well, you'd go, yeah, no, that makes sense. I know who he is. He's a gun. That's exactly what fucking happened. He's still a weapon. You knew he was a weapon 10 days ago. Why are you pulling your team apart now to get him? You knew who he was. You knew that's what he was going to do. Jermaine Osaka, you already mentioned him. Any winger in this competition, if the attack goes down their side, they score 2 tries and they goal kick, he's going to do well. History tells us, though, that probably won't happen consistently for Osaka. And the other one is Egan Butcher. Good God. He played the worst game the Roosters have probably played in years. He got sin-binned. What did he score, 35?
Yeah.
So give him 10 points for the sin bin, 8 points, whatever the hell it is. That's 45. Give him 10 more minutes on the field. He's on 50. And that was in the worst possible game the Roosters have played and probably the worst game he's played in a long time. Yeah, people want to trade him out? What the fuck are you doing?
Relax.
He's in the premiership favourites.
Yeah.
Like, they played a bad game, sure. They'll get their shit sorted out. I mean, it blows me away, the mindset of some people after one game. It's wild.
Yeah, I look at a trade that I don't think I'm going to do it for reasons we'll get to, but potentially getting sort of Jackson Ford in and trading out Luke Garner. And that's not one that I'd be happy with making. I'm just looking at, I think there's going to be a lot of great buys and sells for that matter emerge next week when we get a 2-game sample size, which changes a lot. We get more accurate break-evens of, we know blokes that are going to make money, blokes who aren't going to make money. So, what happens if this week Ford comes out and plays 55, 60 minutes and all of a sudden, not that keen on him, and Luke Garner gets his 80 and kills it, and you go, oh shit, that changes straight away.
And Jackson Ford is a classic example. He looks great. He's unreal. Everyone's so excited. For all you know, Curran, Niokore might have been carrying an injury coming into that game.
Exactly.
You just don't know. Just wait a week. Don't pull your team apart. Wait a week. As Tim said, if you're someone that has completely shit the bed and you know what you're doing with SuperCoach, sweet, go. But for the vast majority of you, it's week 1. It's okay. And the other beauty of this, we've got boosts. If you didn't have them, then it would be a little bit of a different story.
A lot.
But to have, to be able to make 3 trades next week, that is huge. It's a huge advantage. We obviously had it last year. Previously, we didn't. Don't panic. Chill the fuck out.
Yeah. And we saw injuries to Roosters middles. We saw injuries to South Sydney Rabbitohs middles. This means Moali played bigger minutes. Shaq played bigger minutes. I saw Lindsay Collins thrown about, who is a sneaky mid-range front row forward option with the Roosters having a few injuries now. But again, they were all in games where minutes were inflated. Josh King was outstanding last week. He could be a terrific buy. However, he played 80 minutes. Josh King's not going to play 80 minutes every week. I don't think. I could be wrong. I don't think he'll play 80 minutes every week. They've got forwards coming back. So another one I'm like, just wait a week and make sure, because if Josh King comes out and plays 50 minutes this week, you're going, all right, we've got that same plodder as last year who was okay but isn't going to do much. If he comes out and plays 80 again this week and kills it, sweet, I'll get him. If Jermaine Asako comes out this week and scores another ton and he has a break even of neg 100, I'm like, cool, I'll get in on that cash. But if he comes out and scores 20, I'll go, all right, dodge that bullet.
I'll give you an example of Josh King. He was sitting on my draft waiver wire last night. I didn't even waiver for him.
There you go.
What happens when Tariq Sims gets named next week at 13?
And when Tui Kamikamitha comes back as well.
Yeah, and then you've got Mad. You got that 90 in his rolling average for 1 price rise, and then it's gone.
There was also Golden Point in that game, so an extra 4 minutes. No, not game-changing, but he had a try assist. I think he might have had a line assist in there as well. That'll be a rarity.
Yeah.
So it could be a great buy next week, but just wait.
And we were speaking to someone this morning who mentioned trading Jacob Preston. No bueno.
What?
Look at the situation. And for people that don't have the deeper understanding of SuperCoach and aren't fucking addicted to it and nerds like us, why is he appealing? He scored 25 points. It's not great. Why is he appealing?
50 minutes. Bottom dollar. Bottom dollar in a club with a bunch of forward injuries. We've seen in New South Wales Cup, sure, it's a big step up, but he scores tries, he sets up tries, he's an attacking back row.
Try scorers are try scorers.
Yeah. So, again, he's bottom dollar. It's not like we paid $500K for him and expect him to play 80 minutes. It was like we paid bottom dollar for him and he got 50 minutes. I'm like, sweet.
It's exactly what you
want.
want.
He's a worker. I know it was 25 points, but the Doggies was almost just a complete write-off that game for them.
Yeah, he had a couple of errors. He got within a bee's dick of scoring a try anyway. If you would have got given that, no one's having this conversation. You got to look at the entire big picture of all these things. For me, for example, I started with Olakau'atu. Only scored 52. He's got a bye this week. I'm not panicking. It's okay.
And he looked awesome.
He looked great.
Yeah.
Only got 52 to be fair, but it's okay.
Yeah.
You're going to have those games, yeah? The minutes were there. That's what matters. You know what his pedigree is.
Yeah, especially round 1, mate. Defences are so up for the first game of the year. Attacks are clunky, so they're obviously often lower scoring affairs. We say that each and every season. Sides are fired up. So there'll be blowout scorelines that'll come. There'll be more points scored. Just chill.
Yeah, and same goes with, so many of our CTWs between your Taruvas, your Campieras, these sort of guys. Like essentially all of our cheapies, no one went over 40 points. But no one scored any tries. Do you think that's going to happen for the entire fucking year?
Exactly.
Just chill out. Chill out. I will say this did almost put a hole through my TV when Campiera got no ball in my classic and draft team, but that's okay. Can deal with it.
Just kept Phil Sammy on his inside. He was the one.
Yep.
I couldn't stop him, so I didn't get to touch the ball. Great news for Khan Pereira. I was pretty scared when Foz went down just because he was bottom dollar. He's got speed to score tries, but a big part of him was Foz being on that left edge. Even if Foz doesn't play this week, the injury obviously isn't too bad. So big win for Fafita, big win for Pereira.
Yeah. I think for Pereira, we really need Foz there, though.
How good was the moment of Dave Fafita about 20 minutes into the game getting put through a hole for a try assist from Foran? How shit was the news that he re-signed with the Titans and he's not playing for a contract anymore?
Yeah, not ideal.
17 runs last week, 4 runs this week.
But how good was it just seeing Fafita running off a half that squares up the line and just gets his timing right? And like as your brother pointed out a few weeks ago that, sometimes he's too flat. You could just see, as it should have been for the last 3 years, Foz during that set has gone, hey, get your ass back there, get in the spot you need to fucking be. And he's gone, yep, sweet, he can do it. Just need to put him there.
He could average anything if he stays next to Foz all season.
Mate, he really, I don't know why we didn't talk about it last week. I didn't even think about the potential of him moving to the other side. And then when the game started.
I think the Fermor injury happened after the podcast, didn't it?
Did it? Maybe anyway. Anyway, to be honest with you, I until I sat down and watched the game and then I saw it, I went, of course that was going to fucking happen. It's unreal. I love it. All right. Any other players you want to touch on there in your...
All good, mate.
All good there. All right. Well, we get into some of your stats then.
Yeah. So I each week want to do a bit of a dive into the stats that have caught my eye. Obviously, I write a big team analysis for the SC Playbook website, going through every squad named of a Tuesday. And from that, I just go through and find a lot of things that change my opinions on a lot of players. So some of them will be deeper dives and a bit more, a bit better stats. Some of them are very surface level that are very much available to everyone and they're in front of your eyes, but they've changed my opinion of a player. So, mate, just going through those. And the first one I'll start with is Eliesa Katoa. We came into round one thinking, all right, hoping Katoa and Loiero got big minute roles, hopefully 80 minutes for the Storm. They both did. We were thinking that Loiero, probably a bit better job security, more of a worker. He'll punch out a solid 40, 45, hopefully get the odd attacking stat. Katoa, we thought was going to be reliant on attacking stats, busting tackles, scoring tries, that sort of stuff to score well. Played the full 80, Katoa. Only scored 54 points. He did not have a single tackle bust, nor an offload, or any attacking stat, which is really encouraging for me.
Yeah, for sure. I think that with Katoa, I expected to come in here and get all of his points with, your tackle breaks, your offloads, as you said. It was great to see him do it without that. My worry is always with round one guys at new clubs, they're on their best behaviour.
Having a crack.
They're having a red hot crack. You look at Bryce Cartwright. Fuck, didn't he bring his shovel to work the other day? That's my only worry with these sort of guys. And we've seen Eli Katoa before come out, do really well, and then just sort of fade off. Hopefully the Melbourne system, it is completely different. But yeah, Eli Katoa, I think, is one that I want to get. Well, I mean, you want to get a month sample size of all these guys, realistically. But he's definitely one that I want to watch long term. But if you've got him, you've got to be happy.
Very happy. And he's one that if I hold on to Garner this week, if I hold on to Garner this week and Katoa comes out and does the same, maybe Jar's a bit of an attacking stat and goes to 60, 65, that's a trade I can see myself making next week if Katoa looks good and the Storm look good. Second one is, and you sort of fired this one to me, Guru, and again, very surface level, nothing too deep diving about this one, but Isaiah Papali'i just didn't look to have too much involvement on the weekend. New club, we're concerned about combinations. The Tigers were pretty ordinary. You go back and he still scored 67 points. He had 5 tackle breaks and 4 offloads. He's just a super coach Adonis.
It was like he wasn't playing and he scored 67. That is unreal. Crazy stuff there. Who else you got?
Mate, I'm a super coach mind. I don't even really watch footy for the enjoyment of the game or any of that sort of thing. You know that I'm just stat based and whatnot. So while I bedshit on the Dolphins, we really nailed Jeremiah Nanai saying that he was very attack reliant. So averaged 60, 65 odd last season max, scoring 17 tries, and we just said the base wasn't there. 80 minutes, he scored 27 points, 25 tackles, 3 runs. I think we got that one right.
100%. And if you went with him, despite everything we warned you about, the reason why you did it was because of his draw. It hasn't changed. If you backed him in, if you were crazy enough, stupid enough, however you want to describe it, to do it, don't hit panic stations after their first game where they scored 3 tries in the opening 20 minutes and didn't score another try after that. You got yourself into this. There was a reason why you got yourself into it. He's all of a sudden not a try scoring forward. He still is.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to rely on it. You did this.
Yeah, great example of the prior topic. And if you sit there and go, all right, I genuinely got this one wrong, you can do it for the right reasons, because when he doesn't score tries or have line breaks and all that sort of stuff, these scores are going to happen. Now, this was a particularly bad one, but he's an example of, you backed him, well, back him again to score double this week and come out and ton up.
Yeah, and it is a particularly bad one, but, teams are well aware of him now. Teams have got tape on him now. Teams are going to double up on him. It is like...
It's almost like they'll double team him for that crossfield kick that he scored 1,000 times last week.
Yes. You knew this. Sympathy is very minimal. Now, the next guy was my 3rd pick overall. I spent the entire 6 hours driving from Armidale back to Sydney trying to work out with my draft team if I take a Cleary VC of 51 or if I captain Tapane because I was in a pretty close game and I was reasonably safe. Spent 6 hours thinking about it, and I think Tapane ended up scoring 5 more points than Nath Cleary. So, lucky I didn't need that time back in my life. That's good.
Joe Tapane, 57 points to start the season. Round 1, less than probably what owners would have hoped. Hardly concerning. What was concerning, though, a little bit was the 50 minutes on field, particularly with Josh Papali'i, not named this week, but still to come back into that side, which may take minutes. Look, Taps isn't going to play less than 50 minutes, but the stat that stood out to me with him was 1 offload, 1 tackle break.
Yep.
He offloads at will most of the time. He often ends up with 4, 5, 6, 7, if not more, tackle breaks. So... scratching the surface of what Joe Tapane is going to do this season. Yeah,
for sure. And I think that, even though you have got Josh Papali'i returning, I still think Taps, you had in that game on the weekend. And, to be honest with you, mate, I think Josh Papali'i returning, it might not be a negative for him. I don't think he's a huge minute guy anymore.
No, he's not.
Whereas I think Gula and Corey Horsburgh, those two can go for 40, 50 minutes. Mate, the work that Corey Horsburgh was getting through when he was on the field, which I thought was interesting, he didn't have a single offload either, which he normally has a couple in his game. So I wonder if that was a bit of a ploy from Ricky.
Maybe just I think the style the Raiders are going to need to play this year off the back of not having sort of too many superstars in the backline. I don't know how many points they've got in them this year. I think second phase play will be crucial to them. But round 1, we see teams win games by playing conservative, completing high, and just getting through their work. So maybe it was Ricky Stewart saying, boys, if it's there, throw it, but let's just work through the middle and grind this one out.
Yeah, I thought there was a couple of times where Joe Tapane could have offload and chose not to be honest with you. So I wonder if they're, I'm not too worried about him. Mate, a guy that did worry me on the weekend was Tino. What have you got on him?
Yeah, not one that I was overly keen on in the preseason, and a lot of people were quite high on. 38 points in 58 minutes. Minutes below what owners would have wanted. Not substantially. I think owners were probably hoping for 65 minutes. 38 points an issue, and there's a recurring theme in a few of the stats I'm throwing out this week, and it probably does tie into what we just said, mate, about being conservative in round 1. 38 points, 25 tackles, 15 runs. That's pretty solid. Again, no attacking stats, no offload, no tackle break. That probably won't happen again this year.
Yeah, and I think with Tino, he's such a young guy, he's a leader of this club. They want him to be a leader for the next 10 years. I just think that there are other guys there. I thought Mo Fodawaker looked better on the weekend. I thought Jermaine Jolliffe looked really good. So, ideally, if you're the Titans, you don't want it to have to be the fucking Tino show for 80 minutes every single week. He's got an Origin series coming up. He had a World Cup, et cetera, et cetera. So, mate, a couple of CTWs you want to finish with? We sort of already touched on them. But
Yeah, just quickly. Stefano Udakamano was the same boat. People going cold on him. He played 50 minutes, 23 tackles, 11 runs. 1 tackle break was his only attacking stat. He had 9 in a trial, the first or second trial. I'm not going to get that every week, but there's way more upside to Tino there. I Isaac Thompson as a CT dub. Bunnies were good in round 1. He only scored okay, but he did have 9 tackle breaks. I'm sitting on there, this could be absolute gold. So Thompson. And then probably a bit more of a deeper dive, a few deep dives in this one, but around Jermaine Asako. 7 games on the wing in 2022. He averaged 36 points. That was for a top 4 Broncos side. Now, the Spy pointed out on the podcast last night, and I haven't checked it out, but like wouldn't have been goal kicking in many, if any of those games because of Adam Reynolds. But if you add, say, 10 onto that, it's still only a 45 average for a top 4 team at the time. 2021 in 5 games on the wing, averaged 45.6. Not bad, but not exactly reassuring.
Yeah.
And you're also relying to better that on the Dolphins getting up again and exceeding expectations. So he's done that for some decent sides. Not the best wing numbers.
Yeah, I think on Isaac Thompson too, just worth noting, obviously South Sydney on the weekend, they were going to the right a lot more.
Huge.
And I know that he didn't get any points on the back of that, but every try that Campbell Graham scored, Campbell Graham did the exact right thing. It was on for him. Like, I don't think Campbell Graham is a hog by any means or anything like that. He's shown he's got a brilliant passing game. So I think there is a lot of upside in Isaac Thompson over the next few weeks.
The Bunnies for so many years have just been left edge dominant because of how good it is. To see Ilias kill it and command a lot of ball and succeed, so promising for Thompson.
Huge. Fucking huge. Especially, I kind of felt like a lot of the times that Ilias put things on down that edge as well was when you had Walker and Latrell out to the left and he overcalled them. I think once they get in a bit more of a rhythm, we know that Latrell has probably got the best cutout ball in rugby league. Isaac Thompson will feast out there, I reckon.
Agreed. And the Bunnies have that horror draw early on, and I've touched on it a few times. I think he's going to be a bit of a slow burn and start a little bit slowly like he did on the weekend, but once those softer games come, he could be like an elite player in 17s.
Yeah, I agree.
If he keeps his spot in the team.
Sit v Starts, mate. He's going to be a guy that's obviously going to get a feature in our conversation here.
Big time.
I mean, Sit v Starts last week mainly centred around the CTWs. We obviously lose, well, I would say nearly everyone loses a fullback reserve this week. So Sit v Starts, very important. What do you, who sort of stands out to you at the moment?
Let's start with the CT dubs. It's generally sort of the big one. And look, no one has the exact same squad, so everyone will have different decisions to make. We can essentially go through our teams. We'll be here for days on end if we sit there and talk about every single player that we could sit there start. But CT dubs at the moment, I will be playing Taruva and Will Warbrick. I like Penrith's matchup against the Bunnies. Bunnies were great. I'm just really concerned that they are so down on middles this week. The Panthers started the season very clunky, but having lost round 1, how fired up are they going to be for this game? And I think they're going to dominate them through the middle. I just think they're going to have points in them as a result of that. They could still be off pace a little bit as they work out these new combinations, but Taruva's in. Warbrick, I get playing against the Dogs down in Melbourne, Amy Park, Saturday night. I think that's a pretty straightforward matchup that I like. Scored 30 last week without doing sort of too much. Sitting Isaac Thompson, despite all the raps we just gave him, for all the same reasons as I like Taruva, I think might be limited opportunities for Thompson, so I'll be sitting him. Alamotti down in Melbourne, sitting him. Khan Pereira, I actually don't mind him as a play this week despite scoring 5, especially because it'll scare everyone off that he only scored 5 points. So I reckon every man in his dog's going to sit him. As long as Foz plays against the Dragons, I think he's a sneaky play.
Which is the tough thing. They're 6:15 Sunday.
Very tough.
So it's a big punt to take.
Because if Foz doesn't play, I don't want to go near Khan Pereira. No. He scored 5 with Foz.
Yes. So, yeah, I get where you're coming from, and I thought the same thing until I had a look at the draw and I thought, fuck, I don't know if I want to be waiting till 6 p.m. Sunday night to find out if Foz is going to be there. I think Isaac Thompson's an interesting one, mate, and I agree with everything you said. I think, though, that if I was the South Sydney Rabbitohs and I watched how the Panthers left edge defended their last 2 games, I wouldn't be surprised if the right does get a little bit more ball down there. So I'm not saying that I'd do it, but I'll tell you who I will be all over for an anytime try scorer again this week, Campbell Graham.
Yeah.
going to that edge that is still trying to sort themselves out, that is also changing mid-game.
True. Yeah.
I love that.
I haven't caught up on everything. How did Isaac Tungo go for you on the weekend?
Not well, 33.
Oh, right.
Not well at all. Yeah. That's all right.
Getting rid of him this week or next week when you...
Nah, here for the long game, mate. Said that from the start. How did Brian Toto go?
Beat Isaac Tungo.
Of course he did. How'd he go?
43.
Yeah, right.
In a game where they did nothing.
Yeah, right.
Do you own
10 more
Toto?
points. No.
I was going to say, having a shot at your own team.
No. I went Isaac Tungo. So I'm happy to wait. I personally think that if Hoskins gets in, I'll be happily sitting there with Isaac Tungo. I'm going to back him in, mate.
You reckon Hosking will change Tungo?
I think, yeah, respectfully to Garner, I don't think he's doing enough there at all.
Fair. They play a pretty similar role in that they're hard line running back roles, though. I don't know if a heap changes.
Yeah, I don't know. Garner looks lost to me. Garner looks like he's a little bit out of his depth at the moment to me. For them just swap him with Jamin Salmon.
I know.
Fucking bizarre.
Red flags.
Huge red flags. And that's also where round 2 is so important, because Luke Garner would be sitting there going, fuck, I got to do something here. He might come out of the game of his life this week. So, yeah, it's plenty to watch there. All right, mate.
Did you have any different CT dub starts?
No, I'm going to go Val Holmes, Isaac Tungo, Taruva, and Will Warbrick at the moment. If I was to pick my next best, I think I would go with Isaac Thompson, but I think I will run with those 4. A guy that we haven't mentioned yet, mate, who scored really well, Kalen Ponga, 72. I'm going to be starting him, so Adam Dewey will be my bench 5'8". And then I will probably go Egan Butcher and obviously Olakawatu's not playing this week, so I'm without him. So I'll be sort of making a decision. My last reserve will either be a Sonny Luke, a Mawali, or maybe an Isaac Thompson. So not ideal for me this week. I could go Tanner Boyd as well, but I'm a little bit hesitant on that. I
have similar in that probably my last bench spot. And early on in the season, Sit V starts will be very directed at CT dub because we're essentially choosing on a bunch of different reasons, but we've got 7 to go from. As our squads get deeper, as the season goes along, we've got genuine good starters good players that we're sitting out. That's when I think probably more your forwards and halves and that will come into the conversation a little bit more. And there might be CT dubs who are a bit weaker but are in a hot team and scoring tries, and you might take a bit of a flyer. Tanner Boyd is my 4th bench player at the moment. He doesn't beat out a lot. He's sort of beating out Thompson, Isaiah Katoa, and a few others. So it's not a big decision for me. But Tanner Boyd 35 on the weekend. It's not ideal that Fafita's gone to the left edge for him. But I thought the Titans look good. They get a decent enough matchup against the Dragons this week. That whole round 1 thing we've spoken about already, the Dragons will be up for it for sure. But at the end of the day, it's still the Dragons. It's a good matchup. Kicking goals, people had gone so off him for his 35. I'm like, he's 384k. Like, he's a bit above cheapy range. I don't mind it.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, we did tell you that he's got these games in him. This is who he is. Like,
he didn't score 17. Like,
exactly right. He scored 35, and the ball didn't really go to his edge. Like, If
Foz is out, he'll also get a lot more ball.
Yep. If Foz is out, I reckon there's a good chance he plays sort of both sides because they reckon that Jaden Campbell could play 5'8" because he doesn't want to move Brimmer out of that one spot.
There's your only time try scorer if you have ever seen it.
Tell me about it.
Jaden Campbell. You see the one he had on the weekend. Wasn't a physical issue, but just defending the front line that he's probably done, I won't be speaking out of turn, but very little of in his career because I assume he's played all fullback. And there was one where I can't remember who was running at him, but he bit on a defender. It was Dewey set up the try, I think, and I think Campbell may have bit on someone, and it was just like, what are you doing, bro?
Yeah.
It's not his fault. He's played fullback his whole life.
So if he does play 5'8", if he plays on the left edge, he'll be going against the Dragons right, which that won't be Murdoch Masilla. That'll be the other side. Sewer.
So Sewer's your man.
Don't mind that. Sewer and who would that be? Moses Sully at centre.
Imagine Sewer going, I can be running at Jaden Campbell or Kieran Foran this week.
Yeah, fuck. Jesus. Yeah, big difference there. All right. Mate, anything else on Sit V starts? Anyone else you want to sort of touch on or anything?
No, mate, that's it.
Okay. Yeah, the more I look at my bench, the more it's looking a little bit grim, but that's okay. Early days, we'll make our way through it. And I think that's the beauty of it as well. Like, fuck, if you know, I would ideally, if Olakawatu was available, I would play him this week. You know, if I have to play Tanner Boyd instead and he gets, you know, a 35 instead of a 60, you're going to miss those 25 points.
It's not the end of the world.
Who gives a fuck? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, don't... I guess, guys, the theme of today is the topic of today's podcast, just don't panic. Don't freak out. Just stay calm. Early days. Will we get into questions, mate?
Let's do it.
All right. So, mate, every single one of you sent me this question, essentially. Egan Butcher for insert 1,000 second row forwards who scored a try or played good minutes on the weekend. Just don't trade Egan Butcher. Just wait, right? I don't care who is at the end of that sentence. Just wait.
I don't know why people are trading him out.
That's bizarre.
And then the fact that they have had numerous injuries to their pack, it only strengthens his minutes in the team because he can play between middle and edge just as easily as each other. So he's getting big game time.
Yeah. Do I trade Egan for Bradley Clyde? Don't care. Wait. Just fucking wait. God damn.
Anthony LaFranchi, Chris Hyington.
Peter Wright, is 1 week enough to go off to trade Niokore to Ford? We've discussed this. We think you're crazy to do that, and there is always a chance to bite you in the ass, and you don't have to do it.
Yeah. So you touched on it earlier, mate. Jazz Tavanga being named in reserve grade at 13. He comes into this side, let's say, next week. We know he's going to play decent minutes for the Warriors once back to full fitness. I mentioned Egan Butcher being able to go between edge to middle. The Warriors have so many forwards that can go middle to edge. Now, Tohu Harris, I think he's probably got that ball-playing lock role cemented, but he can play on an edge. Mitch Barnett can play on an edge. Jazz won't, so Jazz will come in on and play as a middle. So what's this mean to the minutes of forward? If they're full strength, I don't know if he does play 80 going forward. So I think the Niokore trade, I went off him for Egan Butcher last week, so he's not in my team, thankfully. Bit disappointing that he only got his 60. We were all surprised to see Ford get the 80 and Niokore 60. Paid off in round one. The Warriors got the dub. Ford looked good. So if you were trading someone, like Niokore is one that I would love to have another look at if I did own, but you can make a case to sell.
Yeah, for sure. And look, I think Jackson Ford, I thought he was fantastic in this game. I thought he was very impressive. And my gut says he will play 80 this week. I personally think he will hold that spot. But we've got no facts to back that up. You're just going off that one game. So just chill out. Watch how it goes over the next few weeks. The short ball, Hamiso 80, getting people too excited. Who wants to answer this one?
You?
I thought you might want the honours here. I mean, fuck, I think we'll both feel exactly the same way. I'm confident in it.
It's the exact same as Jermaine Asako.
Yeah.
Hamiso was great. It was one game. Best thing about him, he had, I think, 17 runs, and he looked terrific. But it's one game. If he comes out and does it again this week, sure, I'll lock him into my team for round 3 and bank that cash. But I need to see him do it again.
Yeah, for sure. You just got to be patient and wait. Especially when guys, like as you said, 17 runs is fantastic. That's never been Hamiso.
Never.
Is it round 1, new club, excited, trying to prove something to Wayne Bennett? Because there's every chance that you buy him based on the first 3 weeks of doing that. Then it goes 15 runs, 12 runs, 9 runs. And then you're going, where the fuck is Hamiso? Why isn't he on the fucking field?
And
What's going on?
How hyped up they were for that game. Said big first ever game in the NRL. There's pressure for Hamiso's spot. He's now sort of got a little bit of a monkey off the back and going, I killed it. You know, I'm sure he'll have a crack this week, but there's all of a sudden just that little bit less pressure on him for job security, isn't there? So just wait a week.
Yeah. Now, I think that, we've spoken about everyone, don't panic. If you've made big mistakes, we understand you're making changes. I think the one injury that has happened that it really forces people's hand is Cam Munster. Thankfully, neither of us own him. This one comes from Dean Seckold. What do we do with Munster if we already own Adam Dewey? If you already own Dewey, you've got a few options there, whether it be Brimson, KP. If you haven't got Isaiah Katoa, you could potentially go down to him as well. What would be your advice to people who are Cam Munster owners who, credit to you, he looked really good. He got injured. That's unlucky. What would be your advice to him?
Yeah. One of the better try assists I've ever seen with bone poking out of his skin. Not bad. It's a good question because, as you said, Dewey was red hot, wasn't he? He looked great. Geez, I'm glad I started with him over Burton.
And he's just everything for the Tigers. He's the Tigers.
Yeah. So Look, it depends on how your team's looking. If you're really happy with it, I hadn't thought about it until now. So Katoa was an issue I had going to round one. Because I was so cold on the Dolphins, and I knew that Milf is chomping at his heels to get back into that side. I was like, does he play 2 rounds, he get towed up and he gets dropped? And even if he does play, how's he going to score? He obviously fit straight into the NRL and was terrific and scored, 43 points. So all of a sudden his job security strengthens immensely. I think Katoa is a great buy, but I think probably next week, another one, you just don't want to see them come out and the Raiders pepper him this week. We think it'll be probably Hudson Young running at him.
Yeah.
And Jack Wyden, he's going to have a big day. If he comes through, lets 3 tries in, they get pumped, the same questions arise of, all right, how far away is Milford? Now every chance that doesn't happen. But, yeah, so, look, I'd be leaning towards probably Katoa because he was terrific in the first game. Ponga's a fair option. You mentioned Brimson. I don't know. Does your team need money? At this stage of the season, every team needs money, so yes.
Is there a world where you could potentially look at this as a little bit of a positive? If you were to move to Isaiah Katoa, you could be one of the very few people in SuperCoach that could own Nicho Hynes as soon as he returns.
Great. Really good call.
Could be a really big advantage because I personally think I'm not going to be able to afford Hynes within the first 5 or 6 weeks when he comes back. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it work, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be in a similar boat. Losing Munster, got a good round 1 score. It's not ideal. You could move him to Isaiah Katoa and keep that cash, and as soon as Hynes returns, is there a greater pod play to have than Nicho Hynes?
Definitely. I'm just looking at draw, and the word now coming out of Sharky Land is that he's back maybe at round 4 or 5 or something.
It's round 6 bye, isn't there?
Round 6 bye. Yeah. So you go, all right, let's say he missed the first 3 rounds and comes back for the Dragons and Warriors games. You take a fly and go, stuff, I'm getting Nicho in for those games. And that's where your argument, your plan would be like, absolutely. But then there's the round 6 bye. I think this round 6 bye is the doozy there. So then if you're keeping that money to get him back in for, say, round 7 against the Roosters or Dogs, you've just then carried a lot of cash for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Nonetheless, I think the Katoa play to bank cash for big trades next week, I think that could be the play.
Yeah. Jeez, isn't it interesting with Hynes? We're hearing round 4, round 5 now.
Yeah.
Who knows? That could be more. And like they were saying round 1 before the season started. We're now talking round 4, round 5. It's
I tell you what, the longer this goes on, Braden Trindle's a 234 grand halfback goal kicking for one of the best attacking teams in the NRL.
Yeah, for sure. I just what did Trindle score on the weekend? I'm talking off the dome, obviously, but I remember looking at his score and going, he goal kicked, he scored a try. I don't remember it being I want to say 50.
46.
Yeah.
46 in 80 minutes, 1 try, 3 goals, 10 tackles. There can't be many runs here coming up.
Yeah.
He didn't have a run.
Yeah, okay. 3 goals.
2 errors.
Yeah, 3 goals and a try
tackles.
Is a bit of a worry for me. But I know, I don't have it in front of me, but I know there are some incredible stats about Braden Trindle when playing halfback.
Braden Trindle, and this is going straight off minutes point. 2022, let's go back to bigger minutes. 2020, he averaged 66 minutes for 31 points. 2021, he averaged 45 points in 50 minutes.
Yeah.
You got to remember, it's now, he's playing in a much better Sharkies team. I haven't looked into it. I don't know if he was goal kicking at the time for them. But look, the reality is that Nicho, we think, will be back around 4 or 5-ish, so it'll probably be a bit too soon, but gee whiz, there's a case there.
Yeah, for sure. And when you actually go and have a look at, games where he has played, as you just said, you were just reading out the numbers where he's played, throughout the entire season. But for example, I just went back to 2021. The stretch, there was about a 10-week stretch where he played halfback or 5'8", 53, 84, 47, 75, 112, 23, 50, 130, 80, 53. Off the dome, I would say you're looking at about a 65-point average during that period. So, and as you said, much better Sharky side now.
I'd play him in my 17 pretty happily as well.
Yeah.
Look, tough Eels game this week. The problem is Cleary, Boyd, Cheese, Grant. I'm happy enough with those 4, so I don't know where I'd bring him in. But look, let's reassess if we get word Nico's going to be a month. We'll chat next week.
Yeah. And that's the risk you take with Trindle, as appealing as he is. If Nico does come back early, or if he comes back in round 7, it's, because of that bye, it's one less game Trindle plays as well.
I suppose the other thing, between Nico injured now and then Moyes' injury history, though, like a little sneaky one. Next week, let's chat next week.
Yeah,
we'll learn more.
Isn't it wild saying that about to think that Matt Moylan played just about every game he possibly could last year? Unbelievable. And then, of course, Foz gets injured in his first game, not in a fucking Manly jersey. It's unbelievable. So typical. All right. Here's an interesting one, mate. This one comes from Jazer 2000. Stick with Burton. Can't get worse, right? It can't get worse. I can hope it can't get worse. Anyway.
We had a big chat about this last night, so I'll get your thoughts, but I'll give you mine firstly. I'm happy to put the Sharpie through that game for the Dogs. It was just too bad to be true. For Birdo in particular, it just was not his day. The reality is, though, the combinations looked very clunky. My issue is they now go down and play Melbourne in Melbourne. The draw doesn't get any easier. I mean, it does in a few weeks' time, but I reluctantly think he's a sell. He had 10 scores under 40 last season. I would reluctantly sell with an eye on having that extra trade to use next week. What are you thinking?
Look, as you said, they go to Melbourne this week. Then they've got Canterbury and the Warriors. Don't mind that, but Warriors looked half decent.
Yep.
I don't think the Tigers are the same team they used to be. Then they go Cowboys, Souths, Parramatta, Cronulla.
Yeah.
I think reluctantly he's a sell as well. I'm so glad I don't have this fucking headache. But once again, Matt Burton, 10 days ago, if I would have said to you, you're going to sell Matt Burton after round 1, you would have laughed at me and gone, what are you talking about? Fucking Dalian, Seno, Kangaroo. He's a great player. He's the main guy.
I think if you don't own Dewey, I would definitely go Burton to Dewey.
That's a good shout.
I think that's a great trade. If you already own Dewey, maybe just give it a week. See how he goes against the Storm this week, and if he flops, flip him.
Hey, if there's anyone out there that started with Burton and Munster, send in a message. We might send you a hat or something, you poor bastard, because you're in a world of hurt this week. He's an interesting one, Burton. A few of these questions we sort of touch on. Kane Willow, 1990. This one's interesting. Captain Hopgood. I think that's similar to other guys. I think Jermaine's a great player. I think he's tremendous. I don't think he's going to play 80 minutes every single week. I don't think there's a chance he will. I don't know what was going on with Parramatta's rotation the other day, but I can't see them doing that for too long. I think if you're planning to captain Hopgood, do it before do it before Maddo comes back. What about that compliment to Bryce Cartwright? Do it before Maddo comes back, because I don't think you'll see Hopgood play more than 60 or 65 minutes once Maddo does return.
Yeah. Hopgood, if he keeps the minutes and becomes that 70 to 80 minute middle, could be, he'll be in the conversation every single week, as much as we do Teddy or Cleary or whoever it might be, and Turbo as captains. But at this stage, he doesn't have... I say he doesn't have the upside, but he got 100 in base on the weekend. Imagine if you had a try or a try assist on top of that, all of a sudden you're 130 like that.
Let me do you a little favour.
Yeah.
He's sitting at about 850 every week for an anytime try scorer. I guarantee you Josh Hodgson puts him over in the next 3 weeks. Yeah. I guarantee you. Him and Sonny Luke, he scored a heap of try. He runs a hard, tough line. He's one. Guys you see who run that line and you're like, oh, is he going to catch it or not? Hopgood gets it right every single time. So he has got upside in him. And you know what? I read this and went, I want to go for upside. Early parts of the season when teams are still working out combos and every team comes into every game going defense. I don't know if I don't mind it over, Cleary or Teddy.
I'm not going to do it, but I can't knock it.
I can see why.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
As you said, I think in a month's time, there will be even 5-6 weeks' time where we do start to get more blowouts, scorelines, sides get decimated by injuries, and we have the friendlier matchups. That's when you again, not saying Hopgood can't, but that's where you chase those 150 pluses of Turbo and Teddy and Cleary in soft games. But earlier on in the season, why not?
Yeah.
Bank your 70 to 80, hopefully, with possibly 100 plus again.
Yeah, and with Hopgood as well on the weekend, he had 5 offloads. None of them led to line breaks or anything.
Yeah.
They'll come.
Isikoa.
They will come. Yeah, for sure. This one comes from Luke. Worth looking at Josh King. We already spoke about this. It's worth watching him, but it's a no from us, right?
Hard no for this week.
Yep.
Hard no for this week. Could be a hard yes next week if he does it again and plays 80.
Is it worth trading Pele to Moali? We already spoke about this. I can understand if you make this trade, but I think if this is your biggest problem, wait a week.
Yeah. I think it could be a very popular trade next week.
Yep.
Just want to see those Bunnies middles minutes, because if he comes out and plays 25-30 Moali, you're going, not going to really achieve much here, are we? So I can understand doing it to get ahead of the pack to free up a trade next week, but ideally I think you'd want to wait a week.
And look, I'm looking through the remaining questions that we have, and I mean, we've already sort of touched on these organically throughout the show. I think there is one that's worth talking about. Blokes, legends. That's from Fabian. I think that was directed at me. But talk to me about Sonny Luke. Too big of a risk with how Cleary is playing him. I think that if you have Sonny Luke, you're more than happy. If you don't have him, I don't think you can chase him just yet.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I don't own it. I'm like, dude just scored 60 in 25 minutes at 230K.
The other thing about Sonny Luke, which is a huge advantage to have, he's scored 60 in round 1. Whatever he scores in round 2, he has a bye round 3. So it isn't a right now problem. You don't have to worry about it until the end of round 3, until his price.
That is music to my ears and something that hadn't come through. Yeah, because I was thinking next week. I was like, if Sonny comes out and plays 50 this week, which I think there is every chance, I think we both do, I'm going, as good as Harry's going, even if Cheese scores well, I might be forced to make a downgrade there. But, yeah, that extra week with the bye, that's very reassuring.
So just keep that in the back of your mind. No matter what Sonny Luke, I think he will be very impressive this weekend. Whatever he does, you've got that bye. You don't have to do it immediately. Yeah. You've got an extra week. And if it means that you use a boost in round 2 and in round 3, I'm completely fine with that.
Yeah,
I just think you're better off doing that than wasting them right now. There's a couple here, obviously getting stuck into you. Thanks, Teddy, for the Tim captain option. Jesus, thanks, Tim, for the Teddy captain. You actually might have been a better skipper just quietly. I'll tell you what, if I had you as my skipper on Friday night in Armidale, Hopgood like. Making some serious waves up there.
You turned that one nicely for me, mate, and I do appreciate it. Yeah, look, I'm pretty comfortable at a pub with a beer in hand watching footy. I think that's where I'm in my element. So these regional tours are right down my alley. Yeah. I was laughing Sunday night. Speaking of watching the footy at the pub, having a few beers, did that on Sunday afternoon, watching it all in Cronulla, and then I get home and I was popped up my social media, had a little break from it, and Guru's into me. I'm like, oh, yeah. I was like, numerous things you could have got into me about, and it was all about Teddy and captaincy and that. I'm like, didn't we sit here last week and we were tossing up between Cleary v Teddy, and I'm like, Cleary beat Teddy by about 1 point. I'm like, of all the things, yeah. Hey,
2022 Guru. Yeah, right.
I'm impressed you can read, mate.
I'm just showing off now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, mate, to be honest with you, I ended up going turbo captain this week, which probably squared up for the Harry Grant advantage you had, realistically. And shout out to Kempy for organising the country tours, because I was driving back from Armidale and was listening to that game on the radio, and I thought, you know what? I don't get to watch it. I'm driving. I'm on my own. Let's make it a little bit more interesting. So I chucked it on turbo, thankfully. So if it wasn't for Armidale, I probably wouldn't have done it, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, and look, I know you knocked me off by about 100 or so places last year, but that's where we differ, mate. You got to take your heart and the situation out of it and the drive, and I get it, but just got to be impartial to all these different circumstances.
It's all right, mate.
And paid off.
You don't need to move anything on that desk, by the way. We'll just keep the big boy here, yeah? We're safe as houses. All right, mate. Should we finish off with our captains and VC options for this week?
Yeah.
Bit of a head fuck. Nathan Cleary plays Thursday night. He's probably the most appealing option to me this week, but we don't love Thursday night captains.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't love Thursday night captains in tough games. I have been pretty vocal in the past about I like them in the sense that people they tie into this idea of you have to have a VC option every week in case of the loop. I'm like, outside of bye period, I don't know if I initiated the VC loop last season. Don't know if I did it the season before either. There might have been a couple here and there. But for that reason, it means a lot of people might not straight see Cleary.
Yeah.
So it becomes an even better opportunity because you get him more of as a pod skipper. So I like Cleary this week for that reason. And also just because, as I've said a few times during the show, but the Bunnies are so light on in the middles. Penrith are fired up. I think he's a pretty good play. But Thursday night, it just ruins the whole weekend if he scores poorly. I can't enjoy it otherwise.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm really leaning towards going Cleary. I also think the other thing that you need to have a VC, I mean, if Campiero does another fucking party trick and has more fingers than Supercoach points this weekend, your VC's fucked. You can't do it. Like, we've got so many cheapy CTWs in our team right now that I definitely think the VC loophole is very overrated. And, I mean, realistically, Turbo's not playing this week. Penrith are still sorting themselves out. The Roosters are still sorting themselves out. Who's the guy in this comp that's going to score 150 this weekend that you're going to VC realistically?
Yeah, exactly right. What we do have come to mind on the SC Playbook website, the vice captain loophole calculator, bit of gold. So if Cleary does go and get 140 Thursday night or 120, whatever, and you're tossing up whether or not to loop him, you can punch in the numbers there, and it essentially makes your decision for you. So worth checking out if he does go well, regardless. So yeah,
But the only worry is, once again, with the timing, Thursday night, Khan doesn't play until Sunday, 6:15. So you're not going to know until the end of the round whether it was worth it or not.
It's always speculation because you have to punch in what you think your auto-emergency score is going to be. One thing I will say, when you've got blokes like Moali, Pele, Preston, Katoa, Khan Pereira on your bench, you can pretty well bank in when you slot into, you type it in, 15 or 20.
Yeah.
Because one of them is going probably sub 20.
And I'd play it safe this week and I'd put a 10 in there.
Yeah.
Go worst case scenario and then go off that. Anything else is a bonus. I'm sort of leaning toward him. I'll tell you what, mate, the Hopgood thing is more and more appealing. The only thing I worry about is in the modern game with HIAs and everything. For a guy that does as much work as what he does, it always worries me having the captain on those. And I know it can happen to anyone, but it is much more likely for a guy who's going to put his head where I wouldn't put my fucking foot.
Can a bloke with a head like that get concussed, though? I feel like it's virtually impossible.
Nowadays they can.
Yeah.
I've no doubt about that. Mate, the other one that I am kind of considering, I'm not convinced on this, but the one that I find appealing in my team, looking at the West Tigers right edge last week, was pretty shit defensively. Kalen Ponga, especially if Marshew's playing. If Marshue, and we won't know it. We probably won't know if Marshew's playing until Saturday, which doesn't really work with Cleary, obviously. KP is very appealing to me as a little pod captain, mate.
I thought you were going to say Dewey there initially, who I really like. KP,
I like them both, to be fair.
Yeah. You're a brave man. With those head knocks, speaking from experience.
Yep.
Mate, he copped one on the weekend, albeit controversial. With that concussion risk with him, we know he's going to get a lot of traffic in D.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's all fair. And then look, it's a pod captain, so I'm taking risks on it. I always think with KP, he scored 72. I think Chancellor Clockstad, if it wasn't for fucking Lachlan Ilias and his try assist this week, Chance's tackle would have been tackle of the week to hold KP up over the line. If he scores that, all of a sudden we're looking at KP going 110.
It's so hard not to look at KP and look at the 180 that he could score on any given day.
Yeah.
Look, I just couldn't take the risk.
Yep.
You know what? Not only HIA, he's just getting a lot of these seemingly soft tissue injuries that keep cropping up. He had the calf issue earlier in the preseason. Look, I wouldn't, but the appeal is obvious.
Yeah, and as you said, Adam Dewey's also a sensational option there. Goal kicking, he is this side. Newcastle, I think without Adam Elliott, that's going to really hurt them as well. I just think Newcastle in general, their middles. I also think David Clemmer, he could run through a fucking barn on Sunday taking on this Newcastle side, I reckon. And I assume they don't get cute with Appy again, so I think they start better, West Tigers. So Both very appealing there, those two.
And then to the other one, back to the well, but James Tedesco. The Warriors were good, but they played a very underwhelming night in New Zealand. They travel over to Sydney this week. The Roosters, who, if that wasn't a wake-up call on the weekend, nothing will. If they were even close to full-strength middles, I would just lock Teddy in. But Lodge gone, Radley maybe gone, Warrior Hargreaves isn't back. They're pretty light on. So against a Warriors pack that was impressive, last weekend, it's just not going to be a pushover. I don't like it all. Last season, round 1, 32 points. Teddy backed it up with 84 in round 2. That was against Manly. So I'm leaning towards Teddy.
Yeah.
Teddy or Cleary.
The other three that I think are just worth touching on that are like, obviously they're similar to your Jermaine Hopgoods. They're your safer guys in the Broncos-Cowboys game between Haas, Carrigan and Cotter. I honestly reckon there could be those three guys could all go 75, 80 plus in that game. Local derby, they'll be up for that one. It's at Suncorp. Good for Supercoach.
I didn't try or an assist you, 95 plus.
Yep. So
Payne Haas's numbers on the weekend. Oh,
extraordinary.
I think he had, I'll just keep going back to the number 9, but I think he had 9 tackle busts as well.
Wow. Yeah, incredible stuff. So plenty of captained options this week. I think I will probably end up going Cleary, to be honest with you. I think I'll get to Wagga Wagga early Thursday, set myself up and strap in for the show.
I'll be watching with Matty the Waterboy, who is a diehard bunny, as we know. He's got a bunny tattooed to his wrist, so I'm going to be driving.
Have you seen the rooster on his back?
Jeez, I hope he's not listening to this podcast.
I hope he is.
So if I'm watching it with him and riding Cleary, I'll be walking in next week with 2 black eyes. So I'm pretty transparent with all my players, mate. I'll call it as I'm thinking at the time, and I don't know at this point. It's even Dewey appeals to me Sunday afternoon, so I don't know.
I even think that a lot of these decisions will be weather dependent too. Yeah. I'll be taking all those things in consideration. So
3 attackers, you're taking the dry. Like if any game's in the wet, you probably put a line through that. So.
Yeah. And obviously goal kickers in those games too. Like I also think the thing with Nath is that, World Club Challenge, he wasn't overly impressive. He scored 50 Supercoach points and he got held up over the line again. Yeah. And last week he wasn't I thought he did fuck all yesterday and he got 50. Should he have got a try assist for that Liam Martin one? Probably not, but it's Nath Cleary. He's going to get them. Yeah. So's Turbo. Gives a fuck. Yeah, complain all you want. That's who he is. Yeah. He gets those points. So it is what it is. We done, mate?
We're done, mate. Good app, I thought.
Stallion, how good. Looks sensational. I love it. It's very dribbly.
This will be mantelpiece next to my big cup at the end of the season.
Lose. Guys, so the Stallion up for grabs. We've got the weekly prizes of the Steeden Beers and Breakevens football and the hat for the top scorer each week. Make sure you're in that code that is somewhere on the screen in this vicinity here. And make sure you join that to go into that every single week. End of the year, $5,000 from Blue Wealth Property, $5,500 if you are an NRL club member, which you all should be. And Bloke in a Bar, mate, we'll be heading to Wagga Wagga on Friday, 6 p.m. The Riverina Hotel, I believe it is. I actually was talking to someone the other day. The Riverina Hotel used to be owned by the Gers, like Bernie Ger and all them. So I think it was Bernie's brother that owned it. So it's a great rugby league family there. Bernie played for the Roosters in the 70s and then was the CEO in the 2000s. So pretty good knock there. Very smart guy. Bernie, obviously been involved with Parramatta and whatnot over the years. But yeah, we cannot wait. And if you are a Supercoach fan, as I'm sure most of you are that are watching this Supercoach show, and you are there on Friday, come and find us. Come and talk about beers and break-evens. And I think we'll have 2 hats in the Skyrocket that we'll be able to flick your way.
Wagga Wagga, the land of many crows, the land of many tins.
Yeah,
cannot wait.
I think that's on the sign as you go in.
Land of many tins.
Land of many blokes. How good. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us once again. Make sure you join the group. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, comment, like, all the good stuff for us. Make sure you check out SC Playbook this week. Your podcast dropped last night. What sort of topics did you touch on?
Podcast last night, mate. Just the... We tend to take a very quick scan over the team lists from the week, and then we save the deep dive team list for beers and break evens. We talked about good yarn about giving a few thoughts around Matty Burton, Adam DeRussi's true player ownership stats, which we'll bring up from time to time on here. Well, we took the first look at those for the season. There's some just awesome stuff in that. So one of my favourite segments and articles of the season, which will be dropping this afternoon on the SC Playbook website. So
I was when I was playing my draft game on the weekend and I needed some scores at the back end on Sunday afternoon. Jermaine Osako scored his second try and I was doing cartwheels in the lounge room. I posted in the group to chat to the boys, how good's this? And as you would expect, no one could give any fucks. And I was like, fair. Then I looked at my phone and I got a text from Adam Darusi. Congratulations, mate. That should win your draft game this weekend.
He does not miss much that.
Loves it. Absolutely loves it. That made me so happy. Made me feel really special. Shout out to Adam, one of the all-time greats. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us once again on Beers and Break Evens. We'll see you next Wednesday, 3 p.m.